This society will always be as a drunken of the wine. Controlling all the senses for understanding great divine. I will send fire to this land. This society will always be as a drunken of the wine. Controlling all the senses for understanding great divine. I will send fire to this land.
Peace and blessings. This is your brother Gabar, and this is I Am Fit Podcast. As you fit to go God's way, let's go. We are coming to you live from the Boogie Down Bronx. Thank you for allowing me to enter into your interview. Excuse me, not your interview, your living room. Excuse me, I got interview on my. Shout out to Brother Logic. Shout out to Brother Ricky. Shout out One Brothers. New Year is in 2 weeks. Yeah, Brother Logic, he's going to be coming in I think Tuesday, right, Brother Logic? Matter of fact, I got to put the link below as well for those that want to. Let me copy this. Let me do this real quick. And I'm going to do this. Okay, so we have the StreamYard link listed below, those who want to come in. But just hold on, everybody, before you guys come in. I just want to check the premise of it. And to go back to what Brother Logic was saying, shalom, Brother Tommy, shalom, Big B, shalom. So we're going to be discussing about the calendar next Tuesday. So Brother Logic, he's going to do a quick presentation. People call in and ask some questions. But, Happy New Year to those who celebrate Happy New Year today. But we're going to be discussing the calendar and the history of the calendar and why it's important to have a conversation about it, right? And I wanted to do a part 2 of the conversation I had about Pastor Jennings. And I want to kind of calm down, and I want to kind of go over the commentary that is out there regarding the subject matter. I don't know the extent of Pastor Jennings' education and theologian skill, studies. I want to emphasize today, not on the monogamy or polygyny conversation necessarily. I want to focus on what he said in regards that once you're married with a woman, you're not allowed to divorce her for any reason. You could separate from her if she commits adultery, for instance, right? But you're not allowed to divorce her. You could put her away, but you have to remain unmarried or reconcile to your wife, kind of given the same category when it comes to women. A woman is bound for the rest of her husband's life. As long as she lives, she's bound to him. But it's the same thing applied to women. To men in the same subject if a woman specifically commits adultery. So we're going to dive in particular on that subject, right? So I want to kind of set the premise, right? Because I want to, let me go up here first. Okay, here we go. So we're in the Blue Letter Bible, right? This is in the commentary. David Wezek, study guide on Matthews, right? So he, it's a little bigger. Let me kind of make sure I can do this. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's perfect. You guys can see it. Perfect. Okay. So this is basically the scholarly understanding on this particular subject matter. And this is the reason why I wanted to kind of have a conversation with your audience today in regards of this, what I feel is a doctrine from hell. See, for you to tell another man how to govern his house, in particular, if someone within his household betrays him and goes outside the family and violate you, your home, your sanctuary, by not having 1, 2, 3 children by other men. We all saw the video last week. You guys can go to part 1, and we're going over that. I'm not going to play any of the video, but basically, Pastor Gino Jennings says that a man is bound to his wife as long as she's lived. The same thing that Paul told the women, that if you leave your husband, you must be reconciled to your husband, right? At all costs. She's bound for life, right? He believes that the same thing applied to the men. And he's ignoring, in my opinion, when Christ said that except it be for the act of fornication, right? So we're going to go into the study on particularly the subject. These are the commentaries out there. I'm going to tell you what I agree with, what I don't agree, what I see different, and so forth. So, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts after I lay out the framework, right? So let's see here. It says great multiple. Let's go to start at, let's start here. Okay, it says the Pharisees also came to him, testing him. So this is the commentary on this subject matter, right? This this continue the theme of conflict and controversy with the religious leaders previously in Matthew. They have questioned Jesus as he did his work in Galilee. Let's start right here. So this is a question right here. Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife? Divorce was a controversial topic in Jesus' day, with 2 main schools of thought center around 2 of the most famous components. The first was the school of Rabbi Shammai, the more strict and unpopular view. We're going to go into why that is. And the second was the school of Rabbi Hillel. Rabbi Hillel is the school in which Paul learned from. Okay, so you just keep that in mind. Paul, I think it's the guy, Shem something, I forgot his name, but he was the grandson of Hillel, right? And Paul came under that teaching. So Rabbi Shammai was the less popular, less numerous. That rabbi was not the one that was accepted as the norm. What was accepted the norm was Rabbi Hillel's teaching, okay, at that time. Now, all these people were legitimate people that lived, and they were Israelites. They were not converts. This is going back before, we're going to go into the years, but they're contemporary with Christ during that time, or a little bit, before Christ, but their legacy in their school was established during the time of Christ. Already established by the time Christ came around. Right? So let me go down to here. For just any reason. So this was a question. Remember when he said, the Pharisees asked him, "Is it lawful for you to divorce your wife for any reason, right? For any cost?" So this is a commentary on this. These words were the center of the debate. The center of the debate. Each school of thought understood that the Moses law gave permission for divorce in Deuteronomy 24:1. when a man takes a wife and marries her, and it happens to that she finds no favor in his eyes because she has found some uncleanness in her, he will write her a certification of divorce, put it in her hand, and send her out of his house. Each side knew and believed Deuteronomy 24. Okay, so both sides believe, they just have a different interpretation. The question was, what constitutes uncleanness? Okay, so stay with me here. What constitutes uncleanness, right? So I'm going to give you the two sides of the rabbinical understanding, right? What was the two arguments? I'm going to first give you Rabbi Shammai. That says, in the school of Rabbi Shammai, understood that the uncleanness meant sexual immorality. This school, which was the unpopular school, more in line with Christ, right? And said this was the only valid reason for divorce. The school of Rabbi Eliel understood uncleanness to mean any sort of discretion, even to the point where for some rabbis, burning a husband's breakfast was considered valid ground for divorce. Barclay is another scholar, says that the rabbis had many sayings about bad marriages. Pay attention, men. Pay attention. Saying many sayings about bad marriages and bad wives. They said that the man with a bad wife would never face hell. It's kind of funny because he has paid for his sins on earth. They say that the man who is ruled by his wife has a life that is not life. They say, move this over here, that a bad wife is like leprosy to her husband, her husband. And the only way he could be cured of by divorce is by divorce. They even say if a man has a bad wife, it is a religious duty to divorce her. So that was the common theme of the day. And this is profound, folks. I want to bring it back to the Garden of Eden, because I think Christ was trying to tell us something here. And this law, although it came from Moses, when Christ rectified it, it goes back to the first sin in the garden. Now, there's a lot of people that believe that, or there's some people that believe, not a lot, that Satan had relationship with Eve, and out of that was conceived Cain. I don't subscribe to that belief. I'm open, I'm researching, but I don't subscribe to that belief right now. But I'm not arguing with people that believe that, because one thing is true. Regardless whether Eve slept with Satan or not, she clearly flirted and listened to another being outside of her husband. Those were also ground for divorce. And Christ is going to bring that out. So he brought back it to the beginning. This is the reason why he went back, the Garden of Eden. See, a lot of people get caught up with the monogamy, polygyny, and all that. This has nothing to do with that. This had to do with the ground for divorce and the understanding that a woman, part of her salvation is not how well she sings in the choir, not how, what she does for the homeless and all that, but how she respects and honors her husband. And she does nothing else outside of that, she is golden. But if she does all this other stuff, choir, rehearsal, and plays, and she's in this committee and that committee, but she is being a terror on her husband at home, that woman is going to hell. We're going to go into that today. And this is what is missing in this conversation. So Let's see here. Okay, so let me read this as testing him. So in their question, the Pharisees tried to get Jesus to side with one teaching or the other. If he agreed with the lax school of Rabbi Eliyahu, it was clear that Jesus did not take the law of Moses seriously. If he agreed with the strict school of Rabbi Shemaiah, then Jesus might become unpopular with the multitudes, who generally like access to an easy divorce. The religious leaders had reason to believe they had caught Jesus on a horn of dilemma, right? So, and it goes on and so forth. So, and this is in your Blue Letter Bible, right? But I want to also bring this out. This is from Torah.com. Let me bring this a little bigger. Okay, right there. Perfect. Okay, so let me start the premise. I'm going to skip down, right? Most of what we know about divorce in biblical Israel comes from Deuteronomy 24:1 and 4, which prohibits a man from remarrying his ex-wife after she had been married to another man. Although this passage does not legislate his how divorce to be enacted, the description of divorce embedded in this and it shed light on the norm in Israel at the time when it was written, right? Sorry for my read. Let me see here. The divorce is so the divorce was initiated by the man. The woman is not detected as having any say in the matter, right? So it was a gender specific law. We went in over that, right? Shout out Brother Ricky, didn't see there. Shalom. I thought so. I came across this, broadcast today. Okay. Well, thank you, brother, coming through. So you're thinking, Brother Ricky. And like I said, I'm going to set the premise, but you guys could come in through Zoom. And you could call in through Zoom. I mean, not Zoom, excuse me. Through StreamYard. The link is below. But let me just set the premise because I got more reading I got to do. Okay, so all the prophets and all the characters and the personalities in the time of Christ, contemporary with Christ, before Christ existed or was doing his work, and during and after, this was the thought of divorce, right? Let's see here. I'm gonna go. Okay, so let me go here. This is going into Philo and Josephus, right? Josephus was a respected scholar during the time, and also Philo was a respected, Israelite scholar at that time, right? Some people debate they were converts or they're not, were they real Jews or not. I believe Philo was. I believe Josephus. I'm still questioning him, but nevertheless, they were respected scholars of the day. Philo of Alexandria, he lived 25 BCE to 60 CE, right in the Common Era. And Josephus lived 35 to 100 CE. Summarize this law in the writings, both suggesting that a man could divorce his wife for any reason. So in the writings of Philo, he's going to quote this, and Josephus, they kind of agree with the popular notion of Hillel, the popular belief of the school of Hillel. So Shemaiah, that was not the popular notion. That was probably the fringe, right? But was he right? We're going to go into that. Now, the truth may surprise you. We're going to get into that. Was he right? Says Philo summarized begins, if a woman having been divorced from her husband under any pretense whatever, the law there is special law 330 to 31, okay, Young Translation. Summary, Josephus writes, he that desire to be divorced from his wife for any cause whatsoever, and many such courts happen among men. Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 4, paragraph 253, right? New scholar, okay, the scholars, the New Testament, right? And I'm going to touch that later. I want to go first dealing with the Mishrash, and I'm going to also deal with what do the modern scholar says, right? So first I'm going to deal with the Midrash, right? So, okay, it says the Midrash debating, okay, while these earlier sources all understood Deuteronomy 24 as allowing a man to divorce his wife for any reason, the Midrash, Giddy 9:10. That's the location there, and I'm gonna put this. I'll put this in the comment section for you guys. But let me do that now, and then you guys can read it on your own as well when you guys get a chance. Let me see. There it is right there. You guys could get it on your own and we can follow along, right? It says records a dispute on this point based on the motives given in verse 1. She falls to please him because he finds something nutness about her, right? Rabbi Ben Shemiel suggests that a man may divorce his wife only if she has committed a sexual transgression, apparently adultery. Shemaiah focused on the term ira, that's a Hebrew word which literally means nakedness. In rabbinical Rebex refers to a forbidden sexual relationship, which is true. And uses that derives from the biblical expression to uncover nakedness, which describes sexual description in Leviticus 18 and 20. This is the same position taken by Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, except whereas Jesus presented it as more stricter than the Torah law. Bit Shemaiah in presenting or reflecting the Torah law, right? Now, Beit Hillel, so there was a debate in the Midrash between Rabbi Hillel and Rabbi Shemaiah, and this was recorded. So then the Jews kind of at that time, some sided with Rabbi Hillel, some people sided with Rabbi Shemaiah. That's the reason why when Christ came around, he had to fix all of this. He was like, you wrong on that, you were right on that. Both of you guys were wrong on this, you guys were off on this. He had to correct all the misunderstanding of the Torah, right? He didn't come to do away with the Torah. He came to reform it, to make it better, more clear, more understanding, bring it back to the original source, right? Let's see here. And it goes on. Let me go to modern scholars. Okay, so many modern scholars understand Ervat Davar much like Bat Shemaiah, as indicating some sort of sexual impurity, if not outright adultery. Samuel Rowe derived from example writing that the woman is guilty of immodesty or indecency behavior. So some scholars said that this is also goes as further as some immodest or indecent behavior. And let me go back to what Christ was saying, right? This is what Christ was saying. Let me go here. Let me go to the actual place where Christ was having this conversation. Let me go to 19 version, right? Okay, so let me go here. Boom. Okay, perfect. Okay, so when Christ answered the question, right? And this is, I believe, where Mr. Pastor Jennings is misunderstanding. Christ brought in a new law, a new understanding. And what he what I disagree with Brother Jennings, Pastor Jennings, is this. There are two types of wife in the particular of given the fact that Christ did not use the word adultery, he used the word fornication. So what he said, because he used the word fornication, a wife, if she goes out on you, she doesn't commit fornication, she commits adultery. What he does not understand is that fornication is part of the much larger sexual deviant or sexual immorality that includes adultery. We're going to get into that, right? So let me read here. It says, verse 19, verse 9. It says, we could start verse 8. He said, this is Christ unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffer you to put away your wife. But from the beginning, it was not so. Meaning, he's going back to the book of the Garden of Eden. And I say unto you, now this is where now Christ is bringing a new law. And I won't say a new law because it was an original law, because when you look at all the extra biblical writings, all the first sin that was always described in the beginning was lust and covetousness, lust. And who was the person that was lusting? It was Eve. And who she was lusting for? Samuel. Now, whether she had sex with him or not, that's a different debate. But what I'm trying to convey here is that when she lusted, she didn't commit the act of adultery. Yes, if you believe that she did slept with Samuel. I don't. But it doesn't matter. If you lust after another person, if you are a woman outside of your husband, although technically it is not adultery, it's still fornication. Does that make sense, folks? Am I making sense? Although this is not something that she physically did, whether she did it later, that's up to debate. But the minute she began to lust after him, right? And let me go into real quick. I'm going to show you something. This is in the Pentateuch Targum, right? This is the Pentateuch Targum, the book of Genesis, but we're going to start in the book chapter 4, right? When it talks about this particular scenario, right? I'm going to show you guys something. Because the book of Genesis is just a summation. It's just simply a quick, let me turn here. Boom. Okay, so I'm in the Targum, the Pentateuch Targum. The Pentateuch Targum is another source of the Bible. It's another Bible that is not related to the King James or the Masoretic text. Is another source that was translated, right? So I'm going to read. Let me see where I'm at. I'm going to read. Okay, here we go. And I want to read it on top, chapter 4. And Adam knew Eve, it is pronounced a little different here, his wife, who had desired the angel, and she conceived and bare Cain. And she said, I have required a man, the angel of the Lord. And she added to bear from her husband, Adam, his twin, even Abel, right? So when you go into the scriptures, when you go into other sources, that's why you cannot just simply rely on the Masoretic text or the King James. You have to have other sources. You should read the King James or the Masoretic text, the Targum, Pentateuch Targum, and the Septuagint. These are different sorts of the Bible that kind of gives you a different situation. So in this version, it said that she's desire him. And when you go into other records, it also said that she desire him. So the question is, when Christ says in verse 9, and I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication. See, this is where Mr. Pastor Gino Jennings gets it wrong, because he's saying, well, this is a different category of a wife. This is a woman that you haven't had sex with, you are engaged with her. And if you find some fornication, because before she married you, you could divorce her. That is wrong. The reason why, because when you go into the book of the Deuteronomy scriptures in regards of this subject, right? Let me go here. The man's already physically married with her. It didn't say if you are a spouse to a woman and she lays with another man, because there was already a law for that. There was already a law for that, right? So in chapter, like for instance, right, when you go here, when a man has taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she finds no, so he married her. So I don't want to skip over that. When a man has taken a wife and marry her, so if he married, the word there, he's ruling over her. He's her husband. He's her Lord. You can only be a Lord once you had conceived and become her husband. And it comes to pass that he finds no favor, that she finds no favor in his eyes, because she has found some uncleanness, and that's a debate, right? That's a debate there. So when Christ was talking about in verse 9 in the book of Matthew, verse 9, chapter 19, fornication, it was talking about a woman that is physically married to a man, not someone who is engaged. So Pastor Jennings, no scholar, nor contemporary scholar, no one, I could not find one other scholar that agree with you. And there's a thing that is, I believe needs to be addressed within the Black African-American so-called Latino community, especially within the African-American community. If you come up with a doctrine that is off the beaten path, you gotta look at the sources. You have to be willing to say, okay, if I am right, there has to be someone else that has looked at the same scripture and come to the same conclusion, because everything has to be established between two witnesses. So when he is trying to say, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong, that the word here is really not talking about a man divorcing his wife. Literally, it's talking about separation or something else, right? So, hold on 2 seconds. Okay. So let me say this. What Christ was trying to implement here, because remember when Christ told us, let's go into the Sermon on the Mount, right? A lot of people forget what Christ was trying to say in the Sermon on the Mount. Let's go into the Sermon on the Mount, right? Chapter 5, right? So when he was dealing with divorce, right? Or adultery, right? Let's find it right here real quick. Let's go real quick. Matter of fact, let me go back. I've heard it was said the whole time that should not kill. Okay, not that one. Okay. He says, light of the world, need to bow. Thank God, I something to destroy the law. The one of these commandment, except the righteous, except. Okay. Kill, angry with your brother. Okay. I want to go into. Okay. So verse 27, right? Let me go ahead. Let me switch it over. Boom. Okay. So ye have heard that it was said by them of old, thou should not commit adultery. But I said unto you that whosoever looks on a woman. Now, if the understanding is adultery, if the subject matter is adultery, then the only, and remember, at this time, there was no such thing as a New Testament. So Christ was dealing with the Torah, or was already established. If a man is looking upon a woman, For him to commit adultery in his heart already, she must be already married. Right? So, when you look at these scriptures, there's all these laws that apply to the men, because the men were the central figure of the Bible. But these laws also applied to these men's wives, because these women were under these men's household and they were under these men's rulership. Right? So if a woman looks upon another man who is not a husband to lust after him, doesn't she also commit adultery in her heart? And what is that? That is called fornication. The same thing that Eve did in the Garden of Eden. See, that's why Christ brought in the beginning. So if a woman lusts after another man, although she has not committed adultery, if a woman exposes herself to another man, although she has not committed adultery, if a woman dresses indecency, you see her one day, she goes to the beach and she has a G-string, that's indecency. That's fornication. Right? That's right, customly, right? My wife and I, when she is wearing a dress or wearing a new outfit, she asks me, baby, is this okay for me to wear this? Baby, yeah, I like that, but put a shirt under that. It's too much cleavage. I don't like that. Okay, baby, no problem. Because women need to understand that if you are walking around showing your flesh, what happened in the Garden of Eden? What happened before the flood, where the sons of God saw the daughters of man? When you go into other writings, the women desire the angels. They desire the angel. That itself is a sin. That itself is ground for a man to divorce. So although Christ didn't just zero in at adultery, he expanded upon any sexual deviant behavior or thought or desire. You flirting with a man, you texting, going back and forth, those are ground for divorce. You have violated, because now you're not, if you're even sitting down with another man and talking to him and getting advice from him and all that, outside of what your husband told you, those are ground for divorce. Now, if she cooks, if she burns your food by mistake, or she, all the other stuff that the Pharisees began to add, right? Sorry, folks. Okay. All the other stuff that the Pharisees began to add, there was just abusive, then that's okay. No, that's not operating. And another evidence that because I asked the question earlier, who's right and who's wrong? Hillel, the school of Hillel, or the school of Shammai? Technically, if you carefully hear the response of Christ, the evidence shows that Christ agreed with Hillel. Let me explain why. Because when they came to Christ and asked him, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any cause? Right? And then he said, but in the beginning it was not so, for God, made the male and female, and said a man will leave his father and his mother's house and cleave to his wife, and let what God put together, let no man asunder, right? He knew that they're going to ask him about the bill of divorcement, right? Why did Moses decree to write a bill of divorcement, give her hand? What was the response of Christ? The response was, no, you guys didn't understand the laws of Moses. Let me break it down to you. The response was like, no, you guys got it all wrong. This is what Moses meant to say. He didn't say that. He instantly said, because of the hardness of your heart, he wrote this precept. So that means was not arguing with the interpretation of the school of Hillel. So if you have to ask me who's technically right, Shammai or Hillel, I would have to say Hillel. In regards at that time. Now Christ came in and he changed everything. So let's keep that clear. He did not agree that that law was divine, and he brought in a divine law that went back to the first sin of Eve, desire Samuel. Whether she had sex with him, that's a different debate. I don't believe she did, but some people may. It wouldn't have mattered. Adam had still rights to divorce her. And that's what I'm trying to bring home today. She should never have gone to another being and listened to someone outside of her husband. Those are grounds for divorce. So if you have a woman who is not listening to you, we're not talking about she's doing a mistake, she cooked, she burned your food, or she has certain, issues she has to work on. I'm not talking about a woman who is your adversary. That's the problem. A woman who's listening to everybody else but except you, that's not your wife, that's your adversary. Those are grounds for divorce because that's the first sin. That's fornication too. And what saddens me is that these men are going to they're going to Pastor Jennings for answers. And these men, right, are dealing with difficult dilemmas. My wife, I just found out that my wife, the 4 kids that we had together, 3 are not mine. And I guess he left the house with his kids, because I guess he raised the kids that are not his and he's taking them. He's a better man than me because I would have left with my child and left her children with her. And what Jennings is telling this man, it says, you can separate from her, but there's no divorce. Meaning you either if you want some form of physical connection with a woman, it will have to be with the woman who betrayed you, not once, not twice, but 3 times in producing a child with another man. This man is clearly, with all due respect, brother, is a simp. He was someone that probably, knew that his wife was going out on him, and he probably ignored him. And let me tell you something, guys like this that will call, pastors and things of that nature, they already made their mind up. Hold on, 2 seconds, folks. They already made their mind up. They're just looking for a excuse to return back to their wife. That's my opinion. That's why pastorship is very important. That's why I believe, and I would never change my theme. I don't believe a church should be run by one pastor alone because we all come short of the glory. And sometimes one pastor may not have all the tools, may not have all the credentials, or may have a blind spot, that if there's a committee of men that will check them and they will have to come together in a council and all agree, you will have a better version, a better church because of it. And I like Pastor Jennings. I think he's doing a lot of good things, but I believe he's wrong on this. I think he's harming men by giving this idea that there's monogamy is one thing in polygyny. I believe in polygyny, right? One man, multiple wives. I believe it was ordained by God. I believe it was never condemned by God. All this desperate attempt by you monogamists trying to say you can only have one wife is not based on the Bible, and the Bible is clear. If you add or take away from the book, the Most High will take away the name out of the book of life. Now, I don't play around with that. It is what it is, okay? I'm not God. I'm just playing. I just live in his world, and I'm just going by his rules. And the strongest evidence that Christ did not condemn and was not talking about polygamy or monogamy or against monogamy is the first thing that he said in his sermon was, think not I have come to destroy the law nor the prophets. The prophets ordained were okay with polygyny. Isaiah chapter 4, in that day, 7 women will take hold on one man. So that prophecy is no longer, he's no longer standing with that prophecy, because he said, I stand with the law and the prophecy. And when you go into Exodus chapter 21, It was God speaking to Moses. So these are the orders in which you will follow the land. If a man wants to add a wife, let her food and raiment will not be diminished, and her conjugal visits. If he cannot provide these things, he cannot maintain her, keep her. She will go back to her father's house. I'm not adding to the law. I'm not taking away from the law. That's what it is. That's what it is. But put that aside. What Pastor Jennings is telling this young man to do is to really become one flesh with a harlot. And that itself is against the commandments of God. Let's go into the scriptures real quick, if you guys don't mind. Let's see where we at. All right. So, yeah, let's go right here. I'm in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 6. But let me go here. Let me go here. Yeah. Oh, perfect. Okay. I'm in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 16. Let me see if let me start at verse 15. Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them the members of a harlot? God forbid. Verse 16. What? Know ye not that he which is joined unto a harlot, to an harlot, is one body? For two, says he, shall be one flesh. So what Jeremy is telling Mr. the brother who called in, who wrote in with this question. He was already outside the house with I think he took the 4 kids, and he wanted to know whether it's right for him to divorce his wife. And Jenny said, well, you could separate with her. I understand your pain, yada, 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 but you can't divorce her. He is telling this brother to sleep with a harlot. If you are a child of God, if you are a Christian, your house has to be pure, your wife has to be pure, and your children has to be pure. By she constantly laying with other men, that these children are not his, she is telling him, I'm a whore. I'm not the woman you're supposed to become one flesh with. Because in the Bible it says you should not become one flesh with a harlot. Because don't you know that you are the temple of God? Touch not the unclean thing. Now listen, I'm going to say this. I'm not saying a man could not forgive his wife, but that's up to that man, not another man. How dare you, Pastor Jennings, tell another man how to run his own house? How dare you tell overwrite Christ what he said, except it be the act of fornication? How dare you? You're destroying these men. Monogamy is one thing, but telling a man you have to be bound to a wife regardless what she does. Let me make you understand. Let me tell you and let me try to convey to you, what are you telling these men? Before Christ, right? A man could divorce his wife for any reason. But now you're telling me that according to your teaching, this is not Christ's teaching, but your teaching, your opinion, your point of view, that now a man cannot divorce his wife for no reason? Even if she commits adultery? And what people need to understand is this. The fact that this law exists simultaneously with the law of adultery, right? If a man lays with a man's wife, she and him will be put to death. So there was no need for you to give a bill of divorcement for a wife they committed adultery because she will be stoned to death. No more wife, right? So that is evidence and proof that this is not talking about adultery. This is talking about something else. And that something else was always argued within the rabbi. And yes, this particular commandment was not given by God. Moses put this commandment. That's why in certain parts of the Bible, God is speaking, and other parts is Moses guiding the children of Israel into the promised land and creating laws to make sure everything runs right. There's nothing wrong with what he did. But Christ took it a step further, and he said, listen, you cannot divorce your wife because she burned your breakfast. You cannot divorce your wife if she's, when you keep reading, a rabbi would say you could divorce your wife if another woman is more beautiful than her. So this is the reason why Christ had to create this law to hinder men from be running around just switching wives every time the wind blows. But when it comes to a woman staying pure and obedient towards her husband, there's no negotiating by that. If she's being a harlot, and by harlot meaning flirting with other men, listening to other men, listening to a pastor outside of her husband. If she had a discussion with her husband already about a subject, there's no need for her to go to a pastor or anybody else. And this is the reason why people are scared of the scriptures and people are scared of Christ, because he brought it down to the fundamental. Because what women need to understand, their salvation lies on how well they treat their husband. That's why Paul says that, listen, if you're a virgin, it's better for you to stay a virgin, because now you can get yourself pure mentally and physically, and you can only focus on pleasing the Lord. But if you're married, you have to focus on how to please your husband. And I was compelled to come up with this lesson again and having this conversation, because I realized that I didn't want the conversation to be ignored or sidelined by the monogamy, polygyny conversation, because that was not really what I'm concerned about. I'm more concerned about you're not allowed to divorce your wife, even if she commits adultery, even if she commits fornication, as Christ says. We got to stop with this constant thinking that, exactly, shout out to Logic, Deuteronomy 21:15. If a man has two wives, one beloved and one another hated, and they have been born, have given him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated. Exactly. So therefore, it's like Rachel and Leah. Now, the term hate and love is not the way we see it, right? The way we see it, or the way we understand it, like we hate somebody. No, Leah was hated, meaning she was loved less. She was. I like Rachel more than I like Leah. That's what I'm saying. So this is not talking about hate the way we see it, like hate. So if you like one wife over another, and the one that you like the most did not grant you or gave you your firstborn son, just because you like this wife more versus another one, you're not allowed to just simply say, you know what, I like, although this son is the secondborn or thirdborn, I'm going to give him the birthright because he comes from the wife I like the most. You cannot do that, because the Bible is fair. It's equitable. It's fair to the Most High, right? I said here, I believe that he got that from the book called Lost Books of the Bible and the Forgotten Books of Eden. I read that in that book 30 years ago. Yeah, that book goes into a lot of extra stuff. Yeah, because it goes into, I think that I read that book, and that's when that it says that the first sin was fornication. The first sin was fornication. Now, I might probably do a lesson on that as well, and things of that nature, but we got to go back to basics, guys, right? So what is Jennings is telling this man to do? What Paul the apostle told the church not to do. Let me read it again. What? Know ye not that he which is joined to a harlot, and that is clearly what this woman does. If a woman is constantly having children by other men and allowing their semen to go in her, and she's married, you are now becoming one flesh with a harlot. Know ye not that he which is joined to an harlot is one body? For two, says he, shall be one flesh. But he that is joined unto the Lord is one spirit. Flee fornication. What did Christ said? Except it be for the act of fornication. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man does is without the body. But he that commits fornication sin against his own body. So we just read, if you're sleeping with a whore and that whore happened to be your wife, and you don't divorce her, now if that wife repents and stops being a whore, okay, we could have a conversation, but ultimately it's up to that man. And if that man chooses to say, I forgive you, but I choose not to touch you anymore because you have violated my body, you have violated this household, and I'm going to put you away and divorce you, as Christ says, except it be before the court of fornication, and I'm free to marry someone else. In replacement of you, because what people need to understand, if you're married to one or married to 10 or 5, it doesn't matter. Each individual wife has their rights individually in regards of you divorcing them. So if you're going to have 3, you have to equally share your time with those 3. If you're going to have 7, you got to equally share time those 7. If it's 10, whatever it is, right? And each one has a right that the only way you could not deal with them anymore if they go outside of the marriage and fornicate. That they get caught flirting with other men. That they get caught doing anything outside of shalom, brother, goodbye, and hello. And it looks like this man caught this woman, and it wasn't like she confessed to him and said, "Hey, I got something to tell you. I'm sorry. I've been holding on this, blah, blah, blah." And you need to understand that there are certain women that would tell you sorry in a heartbeat because they found a sucker. And they just simply say, I got the sucker. I could, ride this train until the wheel falls off, and then I'll find me another sucker. This is the time, and we live it in the time that brothers have to start making tough decisions. If your wife is not rocking with you, if she's been constantly dealing with issues, and you guys are breaking up and making up and all kinds of issues, brother, that's not your wife. That's your adversary. She's not honoring and obeying you as unto the Lord, as the Bible says. If she has flirted and cheated, you call her with other men. Sometimes I hear phone calls. I get phone calls from other men. She's like, yeah, I call her flirting with a co-worker. I call her flirting with this. She's still talking to her ex-boyfriend. Why are you still with her, brother? I don't know, man. I want to just forget. I don't know. What does the Bible says about that? And see, what a lot of these guys, they don't want to leave. They just don't want to. They just want to find an excuse to stay. Oh, I can't live because look what the Bible. Look what Jennings says. Pastor Gino Jennings. I'm going to give it to you straight, and I'm going to give it to you what the Bible says. Right? Verse 19. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? You are not your own. So if you're sleeping with a woman who is an adulteress, fornicator, non-believer, you are constantly sinning on your on a body that doesn't belong to you. You're not your own. You belong to Christ. Verse 20. For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's, right? Which are God's, right? When you mean your body, it belongs to the Most High, right? And that's what people need to understand, is that you got to keep your body pure, holy, and righteous. The bed is not defiled, right? In the book of Hebrews. But when you're dealing with a woman who is allowing other men's semen into her and mixing those semen, because people need to understand, when women get other men's semen in her, that DNA stays with her for years. It carries for years. That's why back in the days, men were very, especially with the Hebrew culture, they were very cautious on marrying what? A virgin. And yes, you can forgive them, blah, blah, blah. I'm not getting into that. What I'm getting into is the danger, the spirit of you allowing yourself, because when you have a woman who keeps constantly cheating on you and constantly bringing other spirit into her flesh, and you laying with her, what the scripture says? You're becoming one with a harlot, one flesh. So, brothers, man, it's time for us to wake up. And I'm extremely disappointed on Pastor Jennings. You know, I think in his mind, he's trying to be a virtuous man, stay with one wife for the rest of your life. He's probably a one woman kind of man. And it looks like he's been married. I think he has a lot of, like, 7 kids. That's good. That's great, brother. I'm not saying that you're not a good man for doing that, but you're not more righteous than other men that were in the Bible. They have multiple wives. Okay? You're not more righteous than King David. He had multiple wives. And the Most High says, he was a man after my own heart. He did all my will, except on the matter of Uriah the Hittite. When he got caught laying with her, what did the prophet told him? If you wanted more, God would have given you more. Meaning more wives. So you got these men that sometimes only one wife, or be in a situation that a wife would never stand for it. She would, a wife would say, that's wicked, that's evil, I would never stand for it. I would leave you if you believe in that. And sometimes a lot of these men, they talk a good game, like they got some muscles, and they always, like Pastor Jennings, always banging on the door. I mean, banging on the table. But you don't know what goes on in prison in those homes. Because if a man feels comfortable that he goes against the actual direct commandment of Christ, this is not like a thing that is a mystery, is a thing that okay, this is not, let me look for it. Okay. Right. This is not like a thing that is a mystery. This is not a thing that is like a hard, difficult scripture to understand, right? Let me bring this out real quick. Right? I'm going to end with the scripture. Matthew 5:32. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, meaning saving, meaning you are allowed to divorce your wife, put away your wife, if she commits fornication. But if she does not commit fornication, causes her to commit adultery. Whosoever shall marry her that is divorced commits adultery. So if a woman is been put away by a husband because she committed fornication, that husband could marry someone else. That husband, regardless whether he has other wives, he could replace her. Get it? That's the whole thing. Because what people need to understand, just because a man could get another wife, and I'm going to do another lesson historically, how expensive it was at that time, what a man had to do, and not all men had it like that. So it was not like a thing that you could just replace another wife with someone. You have to buy a new one. That was a diary, and sometimes you may have a guy that wants to charge you, a high price for his daughter, because that was like a come up at that time. When men have beautiful daughters, he used to say, "Listen, I know she's beautiful, but it's going to cost you." So a lot of men didn't have the option to just replace his wife with another woman. He had to work for that. If he didn't have the resources, he would be choice to do two things: divorce her, and then work real hard, get some diaries, and then get a new wife, or stay celibate until he's able to do that. And like I said, folks, I'm not talking about forgiveness. If she's repentant, if she's sincere, that's between you and her. But that's your authority. Don't give that authority to no other man. Don't give that authority to me. Don't give that authority to Pastor Jennings, because that authority only belongs to you. Christ gave you that authority. Saving for the cause of fornication, that's plain English, Pastor Jennings. That's plain English. And shout out to Pastor Dow. I think he believes in polygyny, so shout out to him. Okay. So, folks, let's really have a real conversation. Let me see what's out there. Their DNA that's not part of her, right? Exactly. Okay. Yeah, she has DNA that's not part of her. Shabbat Shalom, Happy New Year to family. I'm listening. Shalom, sister, those who celebrate Happy New Year's. Always faithful. Shalom. Happy New Year. Shalom, shalom to those that keep Happy New Year's today and so forth. So, but we're gonna have. I want people to come back on Tuesday. Myself and Brother Logic, we're going to be having a conversation. Speaking of the brother now, I think that's it. Brother Logic, shalom, brother. Can you hear me?
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. So what you got to add to this conversation?
One second. I'm getting a double feed. Let me see, can I cut it?
Sure.
There we go. All right. Sorry about
that. You're coming in good at my end, but go ahead.
All right. So, man, my mic is jacked. So, one of the key things you brought out was the Matthew scripture you just had up, which was Matthew chapter 5, verse 31 and 32. What's happening here? And I know there was another ministry that had brought this conversation, and they had challenged Pastor Jennings to a discussion. And of course, he didn't take him up on it. But what's happening here is most people, they confuse what Christ is talking about here. Matthew 5, 31 and 32 in the King James Version has an error. Okay. And if you can share the screen real quick, I'll pull it up 1 second here.
Sure. Let me go.
I got it right here. Share screen.
But I'm sharing the screen with the people. But do you want to share your screen? It's up to you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I got it pulled up right here. Give me just 1 second because I clicked the wrong one. So let's go back to this one. Here we go. So, and I actually have a complete presentation on this, just on that particular topic of divorce and remarriage. based on the situation that came up last year with this Pastor Jennings teaching.
Yeah.
1 second here, I'm trying to share the right one. There we go. It appears to be
Okay, so
that one.
let me,
And then it should be down there. There you go.
yep.
All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to switch over to my screen here. You won't be able to, I won't be able to see you, but you'll be able to see the screen. So I want to make this a little bit larger just to add on to what you were speaking on. And sorry for my mic. I'll fix it next time. Let's go slideshow. Probably be the best way to do it. Okay. That didn't work. There we go. Are you still able to see this? Or does it say loading?
It's loading now. I believe it's, yep, I can see it perfect.
All right. All right. So here's what's causing Pastor Jennings, because his intentions are well, but he doesn't understand biblical divorce and marriage, right? So what Christ is addressing here is put away, which is separate from divorce. A lot of people get those two and they intermix them. They think that they're the same thing. They're actually two different things. And so here it says, it have been said, whosoever shall put away his wife and let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. So two ways we know it's an error is an error, because we know over in the Torah it says once she's divorced, she can go and be another man's wife. Okay, so this right here is an error. Now we have to prove that and up to two or more witnesses. So we go to the YLT translation, same verse. It was said that whosoever may put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorce. But I say to you that whoever may put away his wife, save for the matter of whoredom, doth make her commit adultery. Why? Because she hasn't been officially divorced. And whoever may marry her who have been put away commits adultery. Why? Because she is still married. This is the Bible's version of what we call in the world today legal separation. In the world, they think that, oh, if you're legally separated, you can go and lay with someone else. But in the Bible, that was not so. And we see the same example one last time in the ISR translation, just hopping down here to verse 32. It says, but I say to you that whoever puts away his wife, except for the matter of whoring or fornication, makes her commit adultery. Why? Because she would be burning. Okay. And she has desires. And whoever marries a woman who has been put away commits adultery. So when we go to the verse that talks about the hardness of the heart, okay, the reason that precept that Moses gave them the precept, because what was happening, that's why it says over in Malachi, the Lord hateth putting away. In the Satanic and IV Bible, it says the Lord hates divorce, which is incorrect, because the Most High is a divorcee himself, according to the prophets. So what happens is people go in here and they say, okay, well, it talks about the hardness of their heart. That was because what was happening was you had situations where men, just as you had spoke on earlier, they were trying to cycle through wives, and they would put these women away, but they couldn't legally divorce them under Torah because they hadn't did no wrong. So, we see an example in Deuteronomy 22 where it says, if you lay with a virgin and you get busted and you get caught, you have to hand over the dowry, and you cannot put her away all the days of your life. So they would get in a situation, they see the chick that maybe the woman that was not getting that much attention, nowadays we call her the fat chick or whatever people want to say. And then they go and lay with her, but they got caught. And now, the father demands that dowry and you have to pay it over, and you have to marry her. Okay. You can't put her away all the days of your life. Right. So what was happening is, due to the hardness of their hearts, they were just putting the women away, but not divorcing them. It was kind of like they were trying to use it as a loophole. So what we So what we see here in Matthew chapter 19 is, once again, they're talking about the subject of put away. How do we know this? Because to divorce someone, it's actually a 3-step process over in Deuteronomy 24. You
Right.
have to write the bill of divorce, put it in her
Yeah.
hand, and
Yeah.
then send her out of your house. That's
Yeah.
why all those steps were touched on. But here in verse 3, it says, the Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? That's the actual subject of the matter,
Right.
because they knew that if you tried to divorce your wife for any cause, someone would pull out the Torah and say, hey, brother, you're not moving righteously. You're not moving according to the laws.
Right.
And it goes on, it says, and he answered and said unto them, have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they
Mhm.
twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God have joined together, let not man put asunder. They say unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? He saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, allowed, that's what suffered mean, allowed you
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
put away your wives. That was the conversation. It was about the putting away.
Right.
Okay. But from the beginning, it was not so. So
Right.
it goes on, it says, and I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. Not meaning that the man is committing adultery because he went and married someone else. He's causing the woman to commit
Right.
adultery. There
Right.
is
Just crossing the
words,
scene. Yeah.
right? There are words that are missing in there, and we see that in the other translations. And whosoever marrieth her, which is put away or legally separated, doth commit adultery, because she's not officially divorced. That's why
Right.
in the presentation, every time the word put away is mentioned, I actually highlighted it,
And,
because
and I would
they're
even take a
officially,
step further. I would even take a step further that when Christ says that if a man lays with a woman who's put away, commits adultery with her, right? She commits adultery, he commits adultery. Because even if a woman is put away,
Mhm.
when you look at the pattern of evidence, right? Remember when David, his 10 concubines were forced to have relations with his son, who was his rival, and he did it to
Mhm.
mock his father. What did David do? He didn't kill them because there was a law. Remember, if a woman gets raped by a man who is betrothed or married, and she cry out in the wilderness, and nobody comes to her help, she has not committed a sin unto death. Right? You don't kill her; you kill only the guy. Right?
Correct.
But when a woman has been touched by another man outside of her husband, and that man decides to put her away, she has to remain in her widowhood for the rest of her life. That's why Paul says, if a woman departs, if a woman puts away or leaves her husband, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled. Right? So there's a different standard for women than in regards to men. If a woman is married, and let's just say she goes out of the marriage, first of all, if you go into Utah in the time of when we were in the wilderness in the kingdom, she'll be put to death, right? So that's already understood. But now, since we cannot put people to death, because Christ says, unless you do not judge, because the same judgment you're going to be judged, you judge, you're going to be judged, right? So if I'm going to kill somebody for committing adultery, I was an adulteress at one point. I've done bad things. You understand, and so forth, so on, right? So we all gotta have mercy there. But the actual thing is that when the Bible says that a woman is bound to a husband as long as he lives, is not applicable to a man, because a man is bound to his wife as long as he lives, unless she commits fornication. So it's not, so if you have a woman that does not want her husband to have another wife or what have you, or in the world she may catch him with another woman, yada yada, and she doesn't want to be with him, or he's an alcoholic, or he's unresponsible, whatever it is. Yeah, he doesn't. Is she going to not be with him anymore because of those reasons? Those are not ground to remarry. She has to stay in her widowhood for the rest of her life, right? And that's what I'm trying to bring home, that it is a difference between men and women, that authority could only be given to that man of that household. Whether you forgive your wife for committing adultery or fornication, it's up to you. And you and someone who decide not to forgive and not to touch his wife anymore, who committed adultery or fornication, is not less wicked, less righteous than somebody who decides to forgive her and be with her. Because 9 times out of 10, a lot of these men that are dealing with these women that keep cheating on them is because they themselves have low self-esteem. They themselves don't value their value. They themselves knew that she was doing this. He simply just ignored it, right? And what I'm trying to say is that whether someone decides to stay with his wife after she did something outside of that, no pastor, no other being outside of that man can make that decision. And he's not more righteous or less righteous if he decides to pull her away. I said, babe, listen, this is the 3rd time I caught you, the 3rd child with a different man. After a while, I have to protect my temple. Because now by me compromising with you and being in a situation that I'm keep laying with you and you keep laying with other men, I'm becoming one flesh with a whore. And all that semen has been in you, all that spirit, I'm embracing all that. I'm getting caught up with all that. So we have to stop allowing beta men to trick us that they're somehow more virtuous because they're staying with women that disrespect them, are going out on them, flirting with other men, sleeping with other men, cheating on them, and yada yada yada. And that's what I'm trying to hear out, that we can debate about pull away and divorce and all that, what it means, and that's all good and dandy, and that's all beautiful, and I love it. But what is missing here is that these men that are calling this pastor and telling him that I got to stay for my wife. This man is telling him, if you are married with a wife and you had a wife previous to your wife or whatever, you live in sin and as long as she lived, that you have to stay, celibate for the rest of your life. You understand? And when you go into the scripture and you go into the understanding of first of all, if you are baptized, you're born again. So going forward, once you are baptized and you're born again, you're in a situation now that whoever comes into your own home, if you're a man, in your essence, they also have to be holy. And yes, you have certain times that Paul gave advice that if you have a spouse who doesn't believe, but they still please to dwell with you, that means they're still pleased to dwell with you according to your terms. It's not that they are running around worshiping, Muhammad or Islam or Buddha or other gods, and you're like worship. No, you got to worship what I worship. And you may not believe, but as long as you respect my religious belief, we could be together. That's what Paul was saying. But the actual commandment of dealing with unbeliever is recorded in 2 Corinthians chapter 6:14. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Do not partake with other religion, other worship, other people that are dealing with other gods. And if your wife is one of them, that includes her. But if she pleases to let go of those things and dwell with you, then, okay, the Most High, or through Paul's writings, and I believe he was dealing with the spirit of the Most High and the council, that yes, you will give your unbelieving spouse some time to maybe come around. That's why he says, what do you know, oh man, if you will not save your husband or your wife, right? You will not know that eventually you could rub them the right way and they'll convert. And that's what I'm trying to drive home. You cannot remove the authority of a man's decision in what he's going to do in his own household with his wife. And especially if Christ gave them commandments and direct statement that what he could do it if she commits fornication. And fornication is two kinds of fornication: physical and spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk in one day and you see your wife with the Baphomet, the five-pointed star in the ground, that's fornication. You worshiping another god in this house, and this is not going to happen. And this is what is happening in the mistake that we develop as Americans. That within America, you could have the father is a Christian, the mother is a Buddhist, the son is an atheist, the sister, the daughter is a transgender. They could all, and that's the Hellenistic Babylonian way of thinking in America. But we men that are with the Most High, we have to say, for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. We ain't going to have split marriages. You believe in this and you believe in that. And listen, there's some brothers that are stuck in that situation. And I get it, right? They're stuck in that situation. They can't get out of that situation because of kids, and they have to borrow some time and work it out. That's all good, right? And it's tough when you wake up into this truth and then your wife doesn't wake up. It is tough. Remember Lot's wife.
Yep.
But what I'm trying to help what I'm trying to help is brothers that are not married yet. They are thinking about it. They are having conversation. But Brother Lodge, you want to add something?
Yes, sir. I agree with it. I agree with what you're saying. And as far as brothers who are looking to get married, all right. I'm going to tell them. I had to talk this way because my mic's over here.
Sure.
I would say the same thing. That I always say. You want to make sure you don't get a legal marriage license.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why: because a lot of brothers and sisters who are in bad situations and can't get out of them, even though they're now following the laws and commandments, the Torah.
Yeah.
They're in certain situations where it's harder for them to get out of it because they have legally tied themselves to the system. And so what happens is when you get this marriage license, it allows the state to come in and divide your assets unfairly.
Yeah.
So it's very important. Yeah, and I put that in there. So it says here, if she go not as thou would have her, cut her off from thy flesh and give her a bill of divorce and let her go. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a man has a right to do that. A man has a right to run his house appropriately. You can give her a bill of divorce if, like, Christ spoke on, Messiah spoke on, for the cause of fornication.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to put her away because I was watching, the new Ice Spice video or,
right.
whatever they got on, video shows these days.
Yeah.
So, some key aspects or takeaways for brothers that are looking to get married, right? Okay.
Yeah.
You can get married under the Most High without having to get a marriage license. You don't want to get a state marriage license. That's going to, because what you hear on some of these dating coaches and all this crazy stuff on YouTube, they'll be like, oh yeah, make sure you get a prenup and all this stuff. Here's the problem. A prenup can be overturned by a wicked judge. And what do you have filling the land nowadays is a bunch of wicked judges. Just take a look at what's going on in New York and Chicago and all these situations.
Yeah, Tyrese is going to, he had a tight prenup, and the wife is challenging it. Donald Trump's first wife challenged it. I mean, so why even sign the contract? Why even get into that scenario? Even if a prenup can protect you, it can, but it cannot fully protect you. You still have to get a lawyer. You still have to go into that system. I don't want my family to be entangled with any legal restrictions or anything that I need to go to a judge in regards to my home.
Correct.
And that's what I'm trying to tell brothers. Especially if you're dealing with a situation that you're dealing with child protection agencies, some form of legal entanglement, a family court, get out of that. And if you have a woman that is constantly in that world and will serve you papers and everything has to be legal, you have to go to the white man, blah, 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 for everything, that's not the woman for you, brother. That's the woman who's going to turn on you. And that's what we need to convey today.
And so another key thing is vetting. You definitely want to vet the people that you're dealing with. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
we've all been through situations. I have myself, this, that, and the other. I mean, I've never gotten in a situation with a marriage license or anything like that. But I've experienced situations where I could have been more thorough in vetting
Yeah.
the person that I was dealing with at that time. Um, One of the things you touched on, which I know was a hard topic for people, but you said something that's completely true. When women are laying with all these different men, they start to take on their DNA and some of those personality traits, whether
Mm-hmm.
positive or negative. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, some people may not like this, and I understand, okay, we get baptized, new creature in Christ and all that stuff. But at some point in time, a body count does matter. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. That's
Yeah.
biblical, right? How body counts worked in the Bible is you're married. Speaking from a woman's perspective. You're married, you get divorced, and then you go to your next husband and you're with that husband for the rest of your life. Or you're married, your husband passes away, like Paul speaks about in Romans. You're loose from the law of your husband and what you brought out in Corinthians. And then you can go and be another man's wife in those scenarios. It wasn't a woman said, okay, hey, I'm going to go marry this guy. I'm going to acquire all my wealth from the rich guy. Because look at everybody that got hit last year with divorces
Yeah.
or got messed over. From Ye or Kanye, the Wolverine dude, Hugh Jackman, Dr. Dre, Russell Simmons, all these cats got wiped out, right?
Yeah.
So people have to be very aware of these things. Be aware of the legal system,
Mm-hmm.
be aware of your choices, and make sure you vet the person. Because if you've built up something, right? This is not like another country or even certain states. Like you live in a state where if you get hit by the wrong person or the wrong woman or man or woman, depending on which one,
Yeah.
because sometimes men do things to women and vice versa. You get hit by the wrong person, especially in New York, and you get a divorce in New York. If you in a house that costs you, 1.2, and you got
Yeah.
to divide that in half, and you're, say for example, like in your 40s, okay, and you got to try to recover from that, but you built all this stuff when you were in your younger years. It takes a lot of time to recover from certain things like that.
Yeah.
That's why when you
Yeah.
go into banks and get certain loans, they say, hey, have you ever been through a divorce? And you look at them like, what does my relationship got to do with me getting a loan? That's
Yeah.
why. So
Yeah. Yeah. And what we need to understand is that I'm going to sound very, male chauvinist right now, but we have enough data now to know that if women get exposed to too much option, I got all these options, they go haywire. If women are shown too, incentive to do something against her man to come up to get some form of advantage, freedom, right? Because yes, women are hardwired to, women when they lay with a man and they continue living with that same man, they'll build like a endorphin connection to that man. Women are built to serve men. When you look at back in the days, right, before they had the police and all this, court system and all this protection, and we were less modern or less civilized, I will say. In your own village, the women used to feed the father, the brother, the husband, because they are the first and last line of defense for any invasion. So women didn't have the freedom that they have now, that they could get their own apartment, live in the city, sex in the city, just running around. That was unheard of 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Women, if they go on the field, there was no system that I'm going to call the police if some man grabs me and forces himself on me. So women understood that they needed protection from a man. And the sad thing, and what breaks my heart, is that women are so stubborn that God has to go create that scenario again in the world when everything collapses, that they're going to realize I need me a heterosexual masculine man who is a righteous man, who's not going to hurt me. I'm going to listen to him. I'm going to figure out what he likes. I'm going to figure out what he doesn't like. I'm not going to do that because I need this man to protect me. It's going to take that. And that's what I tell brothers all the time about. They say, well, bro, when you think that time, the 7 women would take hold on one man. Now, I believe that women and men, especially women, should say, okay, let me find a man, regardless whether he's married or not, and let me talk to his wife and see if I could convince them for me to join that family, because that guy is going someplace, right? Hypergamy, right? And I encourage women to do that now. However, though, I was having this conversation with this brother, and I told this brother, listen, we don't have to ever worry about when that day is going to come, because we're going to see it. Women are going to be looking for men.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Because things are going to get so bad. Women are going to be like, listen, I heard about polygyny. We're okay with it now. We're fine. We'll share you. We got resources, because things are going to get that bad. So sisters, why wait until things get this bad for you to start having that spirit? But people that are hard-headed are hard-headed are hard-headed. And I just want to be in a scenario that people could have a conversation honestly and objectively. Is that, and I was about this year, I really understood. I understood it, or I heard it before, but I now truly understand that you could have a righteous home. You could have a righteous wife. You could have kids that are righteous, but their environment, it is extremely difficult for someone who is in a bad environment to raise good kids, because your environment has more influence than even your own parents. So I truly understand the value and the parable, the old African parable, which says it takes a village to raise a child. And this is the reason why I'm looking for some brothers of Wolfpack to say, you know what, we have to get out of this environment. We have to get some land. We have to get some resources. We have to create our own little village, with our own little hospital, our own little church, our own little system of governance, right? But we're not being influenced by anybody else, by gated community and things of that nature. And when you have a lot of hands on deck, it makes the labor light. And that's ultimately, I believe, what is missing in these churches. Shout out to Pastor Dow. I think he got it right. I think he's doing it right. He's being separate. He's creating his own compound, gated community. They all believe in the same thing. They all, working together. That's what I'm looking for. I was like, bravo when I saw it. Very good, Pastor Dow. And that's what we have to start understanding, because it is difficult. We could have these conversations until the cow comes home. But, why these women are frustrating us. My God, they're always doing the wrong thing. Is their environment. Is their environment. And women are the weaker vessel. The women are the ones that are always being influenced by the shiny lights and the shiny sparkles. And, and they very easily, they burn it. And it is a heterosexual masculine man that will always look at things and say, nah, don't do that. Don't go there. But why? It's so pretty. It's so nice. Look, hold on. Wait a minute. And when a woman is in her right spirit, right? When she's in the right spirit, she can look out for those things, right? But she has to be in the right spirit, but she has to be in the right setting. I love my sisters. I want them to do well. I know a lot of people say I'm tough on women, but it comes from a place of love, right? What you got to add?
Yes, sir. So a couple of things. One of the things you touched on was the environment. So we see an example of this over in I want to say over in Genesis. Okay. And then we see it throughout the, scriptures where the Israelites get entangled in the idols of the land and some of the customs of the lands of the, heathen or what have you.
Yeah.
So, definitely, that's very important. Another thing you touched on is the environment. So when it comes to the environment, right, through the travel, like all the travel videos, they call it software. The women, their software, because of this current culture, especially what we call westernized culture, because of the software that's implanted in their brain, that's the culture, it
Yeah.
causes them to behave a certain way.
Yeah.
To the point to where they don't even know that they're doing it in some situations. What do I mean by software? If you look at the women across the world, right, in different cultures, they look like us. You have brown people, so-called black, but brown people across the globe, sisters as well, but they have a different culture. And that culture that they've been brought up in, it allows them to, how could I say, function more in a natural state of being, like more in it allows the feminine women, feminine to be feminine and the masculine to be masculine.
Yeah.
Whereas in this culture, as this culture continues to fall and go down the drain, so to speak, where we're promoting more things that are controversial over here, whether it be alphabet stuff, LGBTisms and all those things, that's actually taking the culture in a different direction, where they want
Yeah.
the little boys dressing in dresses and want the
Yeah.
girls, out there like, pulling up the tree roots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
it's
that's the
very
reason why
important.
after a while, it doesn't matter how righteous you are as a man, as a woman, as a family, if you're in an environment that is opposite and is so strong and influential on that community, it's like you living in, and the Bible says that Lot was vexed every day, right? He was upset every day. He was. I mean, imagine you living in that environment, right? Sodom and Gomorrah. Forget about it, right? And when you look at other writings, that even his own daughters got caught up with the madness as well. This also his daughter, his wife as well. We know that because she got, she turned back. So the lesson to be taught, to be learned, yeah, it would be great that you could say, well, I could resist any temptation. I'm a spiritual family and man, and my wife would never. Yeah, it's great, and there's some people that could sustain that. But why do you want to live through that? Why do you want to risk that scenario, right? When risk your daughter being taken by some bad, what's going on in the world today, your wife, your son, and all that. So your environment and where you raise your family is extremely important. As an individual, your environment and the people that you hang out with is extremely important because they rub on you. They will eventually influence you in a way. And sometimes people will say, yeah, I'm my own person. I speak for, I think for myself and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like that too. But sometimes you do things consciously and other things unconsciously because of your environment. And if you live in a righteous environment, and that's hard to find these days, it'll be easier, right? But
Yes, sir.
it's one of those things. What you got to, and people want to comment and even call in. You can call in through the StreamYard link. You're more than welcome to call in and so forth, so on. Any last words before we end the show?
Yeah, a couple of things I want to say. Shout out to the brother, the Word. That's my good brother out here, and brother Ricky J, and brother Tommy. He had a great comment. He said, if you buy land, make sure it's high above sea level, as high as possible. Hey, he ain't wrong. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Especially
And
with
matter of fact, I don't want to. Yes,
especially
you're
with New
right.
York
The
sinking
place
and
that I'm
Florida
looking
and all that
for.
stuff.
Yeah. The place that I'm looking to in DR is in the north part of DR, which is the highland of DR. Absolutely, because absolutely. You want to add? You want to say?
Yeah. So back on what you were saying about the culture, I tell the people like this: look at it like this. Look at it from a computer perspective. The program is, you say you have an intent for a program, but your environment, the environment you're in, is the source code.
Yeah.
So that program could have an intent, but it's like buying a game. Or now we buy games, or kids buy games, and they will send the corrections over the internet. They put the game out incorrect, and then they just, hey, we'll send you a patch the day you buy it, or something like that. So consider your environment, your source code. Okay, that's your source code. You can have the good intentions all you want for your children, but if your children have to walk past X, Y, and Z every day, and they have to, run from the neighborhood dealer every day, understand that your source code is going to get corrupted. The intent
And
of that
now,
program will be corrupted.
yeah, and now what Satan has done, he is bringing the sin into the home using this.
That's right.
Right? That's right, parents, you have to check what's in your kid's phone. You have to establish early on and tell your son and daughter, this phone doesn't belong to you. It belongs to me. I'm allowing you to use it. But Dad, I went to summer school and I went to, a job, and I got it for myself, and this is mine. I pay this. No. Everything you own belongs to me. You belong to me. Under this house, doesn't matter whether you're 2 or 200 years old, I own everything. I'm in control of everything in this house. And once you start that early, you can just pick up your daughter's phone, your son's phone, let's see what's going on here. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like that. And all that because Satan is a worthy adversary, and he is a roaring lion looking to devour. And he's coming from all angles. Social media, your environment, television, movies. You have to be invested in what the kids watch. But it is easier when you're in a situation that your environment is more conservative, more family orientated, and so forth, so on. And that may be a different city or a different country. That's how extreme I think we have to go. That's why the Bible says that if your eye offends you, cut it off. If your ear offends you, cut it off. Is a form of speech, but meaning cut off any temptation that may tempt you to you falling short of the glory of the Most High God. You have to be that extreme about it. So thank you, brother, for having a conversation. I appreciate you, brother, for you sending your information on and bringing your wisdom. I know matter of fact on Tuesday, right? You're doing a presentation about the calendar.
Well, Tuesday, we can do it. We can do it Thursday. That'll give me a little bit more time because.
Okay, so Thursday. Okay.
Just to give the people a heads up. So I understand some brothers and sisters may think today is the new year, but all they have to do is go and check, the sunsets and sunrises, right? And that's not going to shot at, any particular congregation or anything like that. But that congregation is 2 weeks off. Okay. What happens is they miss what's called the year release. That's located over in Leviticus chapter 25. That's why your calendar appears to be falling back, even though it is the same Enoch calendar. That's just kind of a little short preview of what's to come. All right. Touching on based on, what Elder Gabar spoke on today about, your children, about relationships, about divorce, remarriage, all these things. In the scriptures, it says, if you're persecuted in one city, flee to the next, right? Mm-hmm. Cities aren't defined in the Bible as we define cities here in the States, where it's like just little small towns within a county. It's talking about large areas. It could be considered like a state or something to that effect. When you're persecuted, it just doesn't mean like physically or legally, but it could also be spiritually, right?
Yeah.
So some places are more conducive to what we want to do as people. Some places, some states are more conducive or more accepting of homeschool, proper worship, so on and so forth. Yeah. So understand, when you're persecuted in one city, flee to the next, wherever that may be, and I'm telling you, it's starting to become few and far between here in what we call the United States of America. So just be aware of that. All right. But yeah,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
Thursday, you're gonna be coming back. We're gonna be talking about the calendar.
Oh, we can do it Thursday. We can do it Thursday.
Thursday, right? You want more time?
Yes,
It's
sir.
up to you.
Yeah, Thursday would be better. I'll let the people know.
Okay.
Thursday.
Okay. So I'll come on Tuesday. I'll pick up another reason what to talk about, and then Thursday we'll come back with the calendar. I think it's an important discussion. And I'll give my thoughts about it and so forth, so on, because I know it's a controversial conversation.
And just for clarity, this isn't me dictating a calendar to the listeners. It's going to be me showing you how to calculate the calendar for yourself, and then showing you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, because it's really easy. It can be taught in 5 minutes, but because of the complexities of the issue and certain spiritual blocks that some people may have that others may not have, it then comes into where I want to cover everything in detail. Leave in the one, I'm going to do it like in a 45-minute version. It's not going to be the hour and 30-minute version. It's going to be like a 45-minute version. But if possible, if there's any questions that I can't answer that day, I'll try to come back another day and and cover those.
I'm not going to give my opinion. I'm going to be listening.
All right.
And you're going to be what you call in the hot seat, right, that day. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna lay down what you believe to be true. And then, people will call in, ask some questions, and they may disagree, may agree, may ask some questions, may not need to understand a little more. And with the understanding that, hey, we're all doing this with love. I think we have to have conversations about this without feeling offended because, your elder follows this calendar, my elder, or this, and so forth, so on. Let's just have a conversation. And I really also want to have a conversation, and then, with your PowerPoint, I may put them together on the history of the calendar, of the different calendar were followed by different Jews at different places of the world. They did not always agree. This is not a new problem. This is a problem that's been around for a long time, and we're just going to discuss it. That's all. That's okay. And hopefully we'll come to some solution, brother. So I appreciate you coming and sharing your information. And I can't wait to have this kind of discussion on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
All right, Shalom. So there it is. Brother Logic, bringing his information. Appreciate you, brother. And I appreciate everybody for lending me their ear for a few, hour or two. Until next time, may the Most High keep you and watch you. Shalom.